Imagine spending like 12 years in medical school.
Right, which is just an exhausting amount of time.
Totally. And you become this top-tier cancer surgeon. You save hundreds of lives. And then the universe tells you that because you didn't cure the societal root of cancer,
Oh, wow.
yeah, you are going to be punished with the disease yourself. Welcome to today's deep dive.
I gotta say, it is a terrifying concept.
It really is.
And it completely upends, everything we're taught about professional success and personal responsibility.
Yeah, we're pulling this from a highly philosophical lecture. It was delivered in Busan, South Korea on April 19th, 2026.
Right.
And the mission for us today is to just explore this speaker's radical framework regarding the hidden debt of the highly educated.
It's quite a heavy topic.
It is. It's a text that asks us to look past traditional institutions like modern medicine, religion, or government, and consider an entirely new collective entity that's, well, ultimately responsible for healing the world.
Yeah, and to get to that cosmic warning about the cancer surgeon, we first have to understand the foundational argument of this lecture.
Right, the setup.
Exactly. The speaker believes our current societal system is fundamentally broken because it operates entirely on this repair shop mentality.
And the lecture opens with a very grounded, honestly, almost uncomfortable illustration of this.
Yeah, it does.
We are presented with a person suffering from schizophrenia who is wandering around the neighborhood causing, understandable distress.
Right, it's disruptive.
And the neighbors complain.
Mm.
So the person moves to a new town. But the underlying issue hasn't changed, so the cycle just repeats.
And the families of these individuals are just desperate. The text outlines how they exhaust every single institutional and spiritual avenue available.
They try everything.
Everything. They take their loved ones to churches, to Buddhist temples, to psychiatric hospitals, and, even to shamans.
But none of it works.
No.
Because in the logic of this framework, all of those institutions are just mechanics patching a leaky tire.
Okay, let's unpack this leaky tire thing.
Yeah, so they patch the hole, they inflate the tire, and they send the person back out onto the road. But no one, not the priest, not the doctor, not the shaman, no one is bothering to walk down the driveway to see where all the nails are coming from.
What's fascinating here is that analogy captures the source's core critique perfectly.
Right.
A hospital or a temple might treat the immediate nuisance or, the acute pain of the individual.
They fix the tire.
Exactly. They are managing the symptom, but they are utterly failing to research the underlying societal environment that's, generating these mental and physical breakdowns in the first place.
Because we aren't researching the root causes, the problems just keep returning to our doorstep.
Yeah.
It started as a family issue. It was passed off to religion, outsourced to medicine, and now it's just bouncing around society indefinitely.
And the lecture argues this is happening because traditional institutions are structurally blind to the driveway. They're only built to look at the tire.
Wow, that's a great way to put it.
So to actually sweep the driveway, we have to invent an entirely new class of researcher. We need people who already possess the intellectual tools to investigate complex societal failures.
Which brings us to the most provocative concept in the text, the social parents.
Yes.
In Korean, it's Daehanminguk Sohobu model. And to be clear, if you are listening to this deep dive right now and you hold a degree or you have a specialized talent, this lecture is pointing directly at you.
It really is. And it has nothing to do with having biological children, just to be clear.
Right.
Parent is used here as a metaphor for ultimate nurturing responsibility. According to the text, social parents are essentially every educated, talented adult in South Korean society and, by extension, the modern world.
So everyone with a skill.
Yeah, the speaker insists that everyone has been given some kind of aptitude. Whether you hold a framed master's degree or just possess a deep practical skill, you've been drafted into this role.
Okay, but if I'm a listener who just spent 6 years paying off student loans, I'm probably wondering why this is my burden.
Naturally.
I earned my skills. Why am I suddenly responsible for fixing society's deepest uncurable wounds?
Well, that is exactly the modern individualistic mindset this lecture is trying to dismantle.
Really? How so?
The text claims that intellectuals and highly talented individuals did not achieve their status in a vacuum. Think about the invisible labor required to produce a single PhD.
Oh, like the roads they drove on to get to the university?
Exactly.
The farmers who grew the food they ate during those late-night study sessions, or, the janitors cleaning the library at 2 in the morning?
Precisely. The text states, and I'm quoting the idea here, To raise one intellectual, to raise one talented person, you must know how much the people sacrificed.
That's heavy.
It is. The everyday masses subsidized your education through their unrecognized labor and, honestly, in many cases, their own suffering.
Right.
Therefore, your expertise isn't actually your personal property. It's a societal investment. You owe a massive, unpayable debt to humanity.
I got to push back on the mechanics of this, though.
Go for it.
You're asking a highly credentialed class of people like PhDs, top-tier executives, chief surgeons, to suddenly humble themselves.
Yeah, human ego doesn't usually work like that.
Exactly. If a PhD has spent a decade defending their thesis and clawing their way to the top of academia, how on earth does this lecturer expect them to suddenly become a nurturing social parent working for the masses?
It's a fair question, but the speaker is very aware of academic ego and actually addresses this structural reality directly.
Cope?
The lecture doesn't pretend the hierarchy doesn't exist. Rather, it completely re-engineers how information must flow through it. The text dictates a very specific non-negotiable requirement for teamwork.
Walk me through that. Like, how does this collaboration actually function?
Well, a PhD sitting alone in an ivory tower cannot solve a raw societal puzzle because they are too far removed from the actual pain.
They're disconnected.
Right. They have the ultimate theoretical tools, but no ground-level data. So the text demands that the PhD must deeply value the masters, the bachelors, and especially the field workers.
So it's like a supply chain of knowledge.
Exactly. The field worker, the person without the advanced degree, is on the front lines, interacting directly with the wandering individual, the broken family, the immediate suffering.
They're gathering the raw data.
Yes, the raw, messy reality. They pass that to the bachelor and master's degree holders who synthesize that raw pain into discernible patterns and trends.
Okay, I see.
And then finally, the PhD receives those trends and applies ultimate philosophical and structural solutions.
So the PhD might hold the highest certification, but in this framework, they are entirely useless without the field worker.
Absolutely useless.
It's a total dismantling of academic arrogance. Your degree just dictates which tool you hold in this massive group project.
Yeah.
And the sole objective of that project is researching the pain of the common people, because they're the ones who paid for your tools.
And this brings us to the critical inflection point of the lecture.
Right, because what happens if they don't do this?
Exactly. What happens if the intellectual class simply ignores this invisible debt? What if you just keep doing your normal 9 to 5, collecting your paycheck, and enjoying the prestige of your title?
Here's where it gets really interesting. The lecture shifts from a philosophical thought experiment to a stark cosmic warning.
It gets intense.
The speaker marks right now, specifically referencing a date called Samhain as the moment the grace period ends.
Yeah, Samhain. That's the third day of the third lunar month.
Okay.
In traditional Korean culture, it marks the coming of spring, the return of the swallows, a time of awakening. But in the context of this lecture, it represents an energetic and cosmological shift.
A shift in how the universe operates.
Exactly. It is the dawn of a new era where ignorance is no longer an excuse.
So after Samhain, if intellectuals fail to do this deep societal research, they don't just face a bit of bad luck.
No, not at all.
The text uses the Korean word bail, which translates to literal punishment. And the distinction the lecture makes between hardship and punishment is vital to understanding the severity of this worldview.
This raises an important question about how the universe corrects us. In this paradigm, hardship is essentially a nudge.
Like a warning.
Right. It's the universe introducing friction into your life. Maybe you lose a job or face a financial setback as a prompt. It's a signal saying you are off the path, stop what you are doing, and start researching the society around you.
So it's self-love redirection.
Yes. But punishment bail is the universe's ultimate consequence for stubbornly, repeatedly ignoring your duty to heal society after you've been given the tools to do so.
Which brings us back to that visceral example of the oncologist from the opening of our deep dive.
That's right.
The speaker argues that the universe didn't give a doctor access to sick patients, extensive medical data, and a brilliant mind just so they could prescribe chemo and clock out.
Because that is merely repairing the tire.
Exactly.
The universe engineered that specific doctor's life so they could figure out why society is generating cancer at such an alarming rate.
What's the root cause?
Yes. What is the environmental, emotional, or societal root causing these cells to mutate? That is their cosmic assignment.
And if the doctor just does the surgery, cashes the check, and sends the patient away without investigating that root cause, They are squandering cosmic
And
resources.
the punishment is terrifying.
It is. The text says the universe will simply give the doctor cancer.
It forces empathy through ultimate suffering.
The imagery is brutal. I mean, the text describes the doctor, now a patient, being forced to endure the exact same restrictive diets, the same agonizing treatments they just casually ordered others to undergo.
The universe is essentially asking them, how does it feel?
Right. And the lecture also uses another vivid analogy about a car to explain the physics of this karmic escalation.
The bulletproof car example.
Yeah,
So, if you realize the world is full of pain, and instead of trying to cure it, you try to isolate yourself from it.
right. You use your wealth and intellect to build a crash-proof, bulletproof car.
Yeah.
You think you've outsmarted the system and protected yourself from the chaos, but because you are dodging your societal duty, the universe doesn't just let you drive away safely.
No, it does
It
not.
sends a massive truck to absolutely obliterate that bulletproof car.
It's a striking view of karmic accountability. You aren't just accountable to a medical board or a university dean or your shareholders.
Who are you accountable to then?
You are accountable to the cosmos for how you deploy the knowledge that society bled to give you. You cannot outbuild or outearn the universe's demand for root cause research.
It definitely makes you look at your daily to-do list a little differently.
It really does.
But we've spent a lot of time on the stick, like the cancer, the truck, the punishment. What is the carrot?
Right, the upside.
Yeah, if society actually organizes into these cross-hierarchical teams and does this research, what is the ultimate global goal?
Well, the lecture's vision for the outcome is incredibly grand. If South Korea, which is the primary subject of the text, organizes into these social research institutes and social parent foundations, they will finally develop the philosophical frameworks needed to teach and guide the rest of humanity.
And the speaker confidently claims that doing this will lead to South Korea dominating the Nobel Peace Prizes.
Yeah, and there's a fascinating critique buried in there about how those prizes are currently awarded.
Because the text asserts that right now Nobel Peace Prizes are often given out for, quote, strange things.
Right. Essentially, they are awarded to people who are just doing really large-scale repair work.
Patching massive tires.
Exactly. They are treating symptoms on a global level, but the underlying diseases like war, poverty, mental health crises, they remain uncured.
But once this society starts systematically curing the root causes of human suffering, the true awards will flow to them naturally.
Because they won't just be feeding the hungry.
No, they will be dismantling the societal machinery that creates hunger in the first place. The world will desperately flock to them for those answers.
This ties into the speaker's concept of independence from within.
That's a mouthful.
It is, but it's vital. True sovereignty in this framework doesn't come from economic dominance, cultural exports, or military might.
Where does it come from?
True independence comes from having the internal philosophical answers to humanity's most agonizing problems. It is about answering the call for the co-prosperity of humanity.
But to pull off that kind of global co-prosperity, the text says people need to undergo a specific type of training.
Yes.
It calls it Jungbiop, which translates to righteous law.
Right. Jungbiok is the curriculum for this entire paradigm shift. It is an education in the fundamental principles of nature and human operation.
Because you can't just tell an ego-driven executive to suddenly care about the root causes of societal pain, right?
Exactly. You have to fundamentally untangle their worldview.
So how does Jungbiop actually do that?
It reprograms the mind to see the interconnectedness we've been talking about. It teaches the intellectual how to process the raw, heavy pain of the masses without being psychologically crushed by it.
Well, that makes sense.
And how to methodically convert that data into structural solutions. It is basically the instruction manual for becoming a functional social parent.
Okay, so as the lecture nears its conclusion, the speaker distills all of this heavy cosmology and societal obligation down to a remarkably simple, binary question for the audience.
Do you want to live joyfully or do you want to live miserably?
Right. And, I mean, everyone wants to live joyfully.
Of course.
But the text frames joy not as a personal luxury, but as a cosmic mandate.
And this might be the most profound pivot in the entire lecture. The speaker refers to the highly capable people in this society as the descendants of heaven.
Oh.
And if these descendants are miserable, the text argues they are committing a literal crime against humanity.
Wait, really? A crime against humanity?
Think about the scale of what is being proposed. Why is your personal bad mood a global crime?
Yeah, why?
Because the energy of these social parents is intimately tied to the global human network. If the people who possess the ultimate tools to heal the world are sitting around miserable, frustrated, and focused only on their own egos, their negative frequency radiates outward.
So it's a butterfly effect of misery.
Exactly.
Your personal failure to find purpose actually infects the entire globe. Joy, in this framework, isn't buying a nice watch or taking a vacation to the beach.
No, not at all.
Joy is the natural byproduct of fulfilling your societal duty.
It is deeply interconnected. If you are researching and solving the world's pain, you will naturally experience profound joy.
And if you aren't,
If you aren't doing that, you will be miserable. And by being miserable, you are actively dragging down the rest of humanity. Your happiness is literally an obligation to the species.
wow. So let's synthesize the journey this text has taken us on.
Let's do it.
We started by diagnosing the failure of our modern world. The idea that medicine, religion, and the state are stuck in a repair shop mentality.
Patching the tires.
Endlessly patching the tires, but completely ignoring the nails scattered all over the driveway. From there, we explored the radical solution. The social parents.
Right, the hidden debt.
The uncomfortable reality that if you hold a degree or a specialized talent, your expertise was paid for by the invisible sweat and sacrifice of the everyday masses. You owe them a debt.
And we looked at the terrifying consequences of ignoring that debt.
The inflection point of Sam Ginnell.
Yeah.
The reality that if you use your universe-given access to sick patients or societal dysfunction just to cash a paycheck, you won't just face bad luck.
You will face karmic punishment.
Exactly, whether that's cancer or a truck hitting your bulletproof car. But ultimately, we arrived at a vision of global co-prosperity. Right. By adopting the righteous law of Jung-bu, putting aside our academic egos and collaborating across hierarchies, we can actually uncover the cures to human suffering.
And achieve that obligated, radiant joy.
Joy that uplifts the entire globe. So, what does this all mean for you, the listener? Whether you agree with the intense cosmological threats of this lecture or not, its core premise is honestly impossible to unhear.
It really sticks with you.
It does. If you're listening to this on your commute or at your desk, it forces you to look at your own resume, your own daily tasks, and wonder, am I just an expensive mechanic patching another tire, or am I finally ready to walk down the driveway?
And I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over as you go about your day.
Go ahead.
If we assume for a moment that every piece of knowledge, every skill, and every advantage you hold was actually paid for by the invisible, uncredited sacrifices of society, what specific societal pain is your current expertise uniquely positioned to research and cure, rather than just repair?
That is a fantastic question to end on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the world around you, keep looking for those root causes, and we will catch you next time.